Hello, 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 everybody. How are we doing today? Today, we're gonna do a little drawing. Nothing as long as like in one of my normal long form videos. And I have this idea for like this creature at a nightclub singing. You know, I don't know where I got that idea, but we're gonna go from there, people. Hope everybody's having a great day, doing good. You know, I was watching something the other day, and it was about that Cobb 30. It's like you know, it's a place where all the rich people go and sniff each other's farts while trying to make cow farts illegal. Yeah. Did you know that they knocked down like hundreds and hundreds of acres of pristine Amazon jungle so that they could build a freaking highway? You know, so imagine this white piece of paper here is a jungle, right? And they want to get to the middle of this thing here. So they carved a freaking path all the way through, going from, you know, I would imagine a nearby location where they can land their private jets. And, you know, it was like a 30-mile long road that they just built for this one freaking event, where all these people get together and talk about how horrible everything is, and, you know, how horrible, you know, you and I going on a vacation every 5 years is, and, you know, just all this kind of crap. But at the same time, they're, you know, like I said, coming there on private aircraft, jets. You know, coming there on private jets. They're, you know, carving through, you know, pristine jungle, excuse me, in the middle of, you know, the world's lungs. And it's not like this was just, you know, a little bit of jungle. You know, it was enough that tribes were displaced, people were displaced, animal life and ecosystem was displaced, you know, just all sorts of crap. And it just goes to show you how big of hypocrites they are. You know, the same people that get up there every day and tell us, regular people, that we need to do more, you need to do more, you need to do more. While they're on their, you know, private airplane, eating their freaking $1 million meals, and you know what I'm saying. It's just, it's a pain in the ass to watch these people get up and think that they're so, I don't know, they're just, they're entitled. I hate that word. Because, you know, not everybody's entitled in the world. But these people definitely are entitled. And they wouldn't know what to do when it comes to like an actual hard day of work. If it bit them in the ass, you know, they wouldn't know what to do. And hey, I'm not one of these people that's like, oh, so you're rich, screw you. Because there's plenty of people out there that got money that got it through good means, you know. They didn't just, you know, have the right last name. So those people, you know, to you, I tip my hat, you know. Touche. Because those people, the movers and shakers of the world, are necessary. You know, it's like I said, I have nothing against a rich person. I don't like rich people that think they're better because they're rich. And I definitely don't like nepotistic, like nepo babies. Everybody's guilty of nepotism, all right? Let's just get that out of the way real quick. We're all guilty of, you know, hiring a family member over a, you know, qualified stranger. You know, we're all guilty of something like that. Right down to being in school and picking, you know, Jeremy for a Red Rover, even though he sucks, just because he's your buddy, you know? So, we're all guilty. Once you get that out of the way, it's a lot easier. But, you know, it's like I was watching something the other day about up-and-coming actors and actresses, and they're like, this person, you know, is a really, really good actress, and she's, you know, blazing her way through Hollywood and blah, blah, blah. That was Johnny Depp's kid. It's like, oh yeah, I'm sure she's really blazing her way through. Really working her ass off at the fucking nightclubs on the weekends and reading parts in between. I'm totally sure that's what's going on. It's just like, give me a break. You know, she got in because her last name's Depp. Let's get real. and she's gonna have opportunities thrown at her her whole life that a normal person could never even dream of. It's that simple. Same with, like, you know, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman's kid, you know, on the Stranger Things, the goofy lady. I stopped watching it, like, around season, I don't remember, 2 or 3 maybe. But, you know, Ethan Hawke's kid and Uma Thurman's kid, it's a perfect example. You know, nothing against her, you know, no one can control where they're born. But it's like, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at it from a poor person's point of view. Because it's like I said, we're all guilty of nepotism. We're all going to hire our kid. We're all going to do that. Most of us, at least. I'm sure there's a few people out there that are hardcore assholes that wouldn't do that. So it's like, you know, part of me can't blame the people. But then a bigger part of me is like, sure you can. Or at least, you know, people shouldn't be so like, oh, they're so great and blah, blah, blah. They're such an up-and-coming new actor and actress, you know, that had to really work their ass off, you know, being the son of a famous movie star and having the door open wide open for them. So, yeah, I don't know. I think about that. Like, what would you do? You know, are you nepotistic, Avery? You know, would you hire your kid over some random person? I don't know. Maybe. Probably. So it's like I said, it's hard to be a total asshole. But it's like I said at the other point. You know, if I was a famous movie star, I'd tell my kid, don't be a movie star. You gotta deal with weirdos. Like, think about it. You know, you're Johnny Depp. Let's just keep him as the example. And your daughter is starting to come out into the world of, you know, movies and stuff. I forgot what her name is. But she's a Depp, and you know who I'm talking about. And it's like, he knows what kind of weird stuff happens in Hollywood. You're gonna expose your daughter to that? You know, it's like, I don't know. I don't think I would. But I'm not a, you know, rich and famous movie star, so I guess I don't know what I would do. I would like to think that that's how I would be. That I wouldn't, you know, put my kid in that kind of situation, you know, where they gotta be around these people that are not the greatest people, or at least don't have the reputation as the greatest people. You know, who knows? Maybe everything's just a bunch of bullshit, and they're not the worst people in the world. But it's like, there's that line in the newest King Kong movie, not the newest one, but the one from Peter Jackson from 2005 with Jack Black. And she's looking at him funny, and he's like, what size are you? You know, and she's like, well, and he's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. You can trust me. I'm a movie producer. And it was like, ding, ding. You could totally tell, you know? And it's just funny. So, yeah, I don't know. If I was some rich and famous actor and or actress, I think the last thing I would want is for my kid to be involved in that business, you know? I'd be like, no, let me pay for you to have some kind of startup, and you know, you can, you know, start a veterinarian or something. You know, you can be a veterinarian. That'd be great. So we'll see how this new, I hope this is the last season of Stranger Things. I really do. I mean, yeah, it's, you know, I get it. It's a winning formula, but at the same time, it's like, these kids don't look like they're freaking, what are they even supposed to be? Like 12, 15, like probably like 16, 17 years old at this point, like in the lore. And it's like, how old are they though? In real life, they gotta be pushing 30. Or, you know, in that, you know, Millie Bob Brown or whatever the hell her name is, she's a freaking full-grown woman at this point with like a husband and kids and all that shit. So makes you wonder. Money talks, though. You want to be dress up and act like a 12-year-old for another, $15 million? Like, why not? Why not? So we got our little singing guy here. Singing creature here. I don't know what he is yet, but he's definitely some kind of funky creature. And we'll put our little kind of thing going on there. Should he have like toad eyes? I think so. I think what we should do is kind of like do that. And then we'll give him some toad pupils. Kind of a goofy night singer at a little place, and we'll have his little stool here. And maybe little tiny legs where he's standing on a stool. Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do. Yep, I couldn't believe it though with the whole Cobb 30 or whatever. Where they did that, where they cut down all the forest. I mean, I guess I can believe it because it's believable. But at the same time, it's just like, come on. It's just, if you want me to believe your bullshit, you should at least try to practice what you preach. That's all, Nothing too crazy. Practice what you preach. I guess that is kind of a crazy thing to ask from a lot of people, though. Yeah, we'll have his little stick go all the way down to the ground here. And it's like his frog stick from when he was in the woods before he became a big movie star. Yep, cut down the woods, cut down the forest, so that we can all sniff each other's farts. We're so great and special. And all of you plebs need to change the way you live so that the world can keep on going. And I can keep flying around in my $1 million airplane, telling you guys what you should be doing. That'll be his little dainty feet. I don't know. Maybe you guys see it different, but just to me, it's, I don't know. It's just so hypocritical. And it's like, how do people not see that? That's what's, that these people are no good. They're not trying to help us. They're trying to help themselves. That's what rich people do. It's not like it's some new freaking thing either. It's not a new tactic to tell us all a bunch of bullshit while they do the same, or what they're bitching about basically in the background, telling all of us that we need to do better. Okay. And it's like, I'm pretty sure on the news I heard something about that freaking thing burned, like something happened where like a fire happened and it burnt that place down, or burned down a big chunk of that Cobb 30 of the building or something. Something happened. I gotta watch the news again and see what it was exactly. But it was almost seemed like sweet, sweet revenge, Alright, so my left hand, I'll be holding something kind of like that. Sorry, people, I'm just thinking of a way to make a thing look a certain way. Yep. Hopefully that worked out. Yeah, I was thinking about making my first day on kick last night. I got home and I was so freaking tired. I just couldn't pull it off. Couldn't pull it off, so I'm gonna have to do it probably on Wednesday night, honestly, because that's my day off. I'll be able to actually hang, you know, instead of being a baby and zonking out. Sometimes I just can't hang, people. Sometimes I just cannot hang. So we got our little movie, nightclub singer here. Looks like he'd be in place at the Star Wars Cantina. But I kind of had the idea of like a 30s night singer, you know? Kind of a, Art Deco-y mobster kind of club, you know? I like drawing animals and like creatures in my stories, even when they're serious, because then nobody can scream like, "Oh, this race was overrepresented," or "This one wasn't represented enough." It's a lot easier, you know, kind of like how Star Trek did it in throughout its whole history. So they've used aliens for an allegory of, you know, situations going on in America and in the world and at large, you know. And that's one of the reasons Star Wars has always been, you know, fairly political, socio-political more than just straight up political. That's okay. You know, sometimes it's a good way to get your message across, is just to do it in a story format, you know. Do it in a story, and the people in the story, you know, you don't even have to make them be people. They can be whatever. Yeah, that's how I like doing it. That's how I like doing it. Horrible stuff over in Australia, man. My heart goes out to you guys out there. That's horrible. You know, it's like these Christmas Day attacks. You know, just not all cultures are meant to jive. Not all cultures are meant to jive. It's that simple. There's nothing wrong with that.